All right, it's hard to tell right now whether I'm live or not because that says that I'm live, but this thing says that I'm not. So I'm just going to go with it, and I'm going to turn off this thing here because I think it's using some of the internet juice, and we don't want it to use the internet juice when we're live on Tactical Tuesday. Yes, it's Tuesday if you're in Australia. If you're not someplace around the world where you haven't clicked over the new day yet, then happy Monday. But for everyone else, happy Tuesday. It's Tactical Tuesday. This is the little bite-sized snippets of goodness that you get each week from me in the Future Proof discussion group. If you're not part of the Future Proof discussion group, if you're watching this later somewhere else, then make sure you go to Future Proof Business Group in Facebook because that's where we actually come together with hundreds of other great business owners from Australia, but also around the world, and discuss adapting your business in the future of the crazy environments we find ourselves in. This constant change. It's good to see some people on the line already. I can't see whether anyone's commenting, so I think the comments come up there, but for some reason Facebook is playing funny buggers with me over the last couple of weeks. So I'm not going to hesitate anymore. Let's get into today's subject. So today what I want to talk about is a little trick. It's just a tiny little thing that can actually accelerate your growth. Now, that accelerates your business growth. It can accelerate your professional growth. Sorry, professional. I just said business. So yes, business growth, but professional growth and personal growth as well. Basically, it will increase the your capacity and capability in doing the things that you need to do in whatever area of your life you're actually moving into. So the way you go about it is the subject of today. Now, I was not always a good professional speaker or public speaker. I wasn't always good on camera. It required practice. Now, if I was to just go about the thing where I go, all right, I'm going to start practicing, then I probably wouldn't have done it. In fact, I'm going to actually see if I can see these comments. I know a comment is there, but it's not saying it's coming up. So I'm just going to click off that, and maybe it'll show up somewhere. No, I'm probably going to have to get the comments after this. So do leave them in there. Do leave the comments in here, and I will look at them after the video, and I'll respond to them then. But I wasn't always good at camera. I wasn't always good at public speaking. How did I get good, and how did I do that quickly? Well, I created little challenges for myself to enable me to do that. If I just decided to do it, what would normally have happened is I would have procrastinated. Other things would have become more important, and I would have never done it. The simple task of putting myself into a challenge style situation accelerated my growth in just about every area of my life. So to give you an example, I once had I've had all sorts of business mentors, but one in particular said to me years ago, he's now passed unfortunately, but he said that back in the 70s, he did a lot of video production and he's still able to use those videos today. And this was back in so this is early 2010 sort of time. And he said, you really need to get good at video because it is now so much more prominent than it was back in the 70s. And I'm still able to make millions of dollars each year off the back of the videos I did in the 70s. And so I'm like, you know what? I think he's right. And so what did I do? I decided to challenge myself. Now, how did I challenge myself? I put out a thing called a 52-week video series. All I did was say that I'm launching a 52-week video series, and I put a little form in there that people could sign up to. Now, all I did to start with is I created the first three. And, all right, I've done the first three videos. They were a tiny little tip that somebody could learn each week, and they would get a video each week for the next 52 weeks, which is an entire year. And people signed up. And because they signed up, suddenly I'm under the pump and I'm like, oh, now I need to actually start doing it. And so I was able to stay 3 videos ahead by actually then doing it each week. And I had that accountability on my back to move me to make it important suddenly in my life. And so my first lot of videos were rubbish if I was to look back now. But at the time, I thought I was doing as good as I could do. And so I was happy at the time. Now looking back, they weren't great. But what I did see is over the course of 52 weeks, I got infinitely better. I accelerated my growth when it came to speaking down the barrel. And so, about video 30, you can see in this 52-week video series, if you ever find where that is, I started to come into my own and I started to create my own voice. I started to get a little bit more natural in the way I went about it, and I just got better, right? So, the reason I got better is because I actually put the challenge in place. Had I said I will just start doing a video every week, it would have become hard at different points, or I wouldn't have made it a priority at different points, and I would have stopped. So that's how I got good on the video side of things. With the speaking side of things, I actually it was funny. I didn't plan to be a professional speaker. I didn't plan to be a public speaker. Basically what I did is I loved learning. And so I caught up with these three other business associates. I was like the marketing guy. We had an accountant in there. We had a HR person, and I think the other guy was doing IT. And we would catch up every month, and we would teach each other a little skill, something that was going to be relevant for business. So I committed to this little group, right? So another commitment that I do. Now, I didn't think of it as a challenge at the time, but this is how I got into the speaking. And once I've realized, I now make a point to create these challenges all the time when I'm trying to learn something new. So each month, we would catch up and we would teach each other something new. Now, one day, someone put their head in the door and said, "Oh, can I attend these things as well?" And we go, "Yeah, I don't see any reason why not." And so suddenly I'm finding myself speaking in front of 5 people and then 6 people, and I'm teaching them these little activities. Suddenly more people are putting their heads in and saying, "Can we join too?" And when we got to about 20, we're like, "Why don't we just turn this into an event and actually publicize it?" And so we did. And so every single month we had 65, 70 people showing up to this event, and I emceed it. So I, just being the person that was there running this little 4-person group, I said yes to being at the front of the room. So I was suddenly at the front of the room sharing, just welcoming really all these people, but it was my first step into that speaking environment. And then something happened. And that's what happens when you start these challenges. Life comes and intervenes and shows you other lessons you didn't know you needed to learn yet. A speaker cancelled the day before their presentation. And suddenly I have these 70 people coming to this event. I'm going to be emceeing. I'm going to be left hand holding that. We couldn't get anyone else to speak. And so I decided to fill their space and present just like what I was to the 4 people in the room to suddenly this 70. And I was nervous as can be, but because it was a natural space that I've been in, because I've been doing it, the practice within this little group, it was relatively natural. And so I was still incredibly nervous, but I did the doing. And people came up to me after that and said, "You're actually really good. You should do that more often." And I thought, "Oh, maybe I should do that more often." And so I started doing it more often. And in fact, I did it for an awards nomination that I got. It was just a 10-minute speech. That's all I had to do. And I practiced for it. I went up to do it, and I stood up on the stage, and I'm looking out. There's like 200 people in the audience. And I got what's called the Charlie Browns. That's what I call them anyway, which is, I don't know if you know the cartoons, but in Charlie Brown, the teacher at the front of the room sounds like this. Wah, 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 wah. I started hearing my own voice and it sounded like that, which really meant I was about to faint. And so I am not a natural public speaker, but I was able to keep it within myself. I finished the presentation. Everyone was like, "Yay!" And I made an offer. I said, "Look, it wouldn't be one of my presentations if I didn't suggest that you do this thing afterwards." Now, I got through it. People didn't notice. They were coming up to me, "Oh, that was fantastic." I said to some people who knew me, "Could you tell I was nervous?" I could just tell. But what I learnt there is that people can't really tell what's going on inside of you. And now here's the cool bit. I go back to the office like just after that presentation, and there are 20 new inquiries for business. And then I've just realized, if I keep putting myself into this space where I need to be brave, if I need to be taking like just doing something a little bit more difficult, rewards keep coming. And so then that's where it was. It was just doing and I got a reward, and do it and I got a reward. And so I started doing that on a regular basis. And that's how I got my speaking chops up. And I tell you what, the majority of my business has come off the back of my ability to speak from a stage, speak down the lens of a camera, because I wasn't good at that camera piece before, but I made it a challenge. So now anytime I want to learn something, I look for a challenge. I look for an opportunity of where I can do it. Now, I'm not going to jump out of an aeroplane. I can tell you that right now. But I look for the opportunities to find a way to accelerate my growth. So a couple of years back, I'm looking for how to get really good at the Facebook ads side of things. And so I find the guy who's the best in the world at doing that, and I go and join his program. Now I spent $8,000 to do it, but it doesn't matter because I accelerate my learning, and now boom, I know that's now a piece that I have in my back pocket. I start using it, I start practicing with it, and I get infinitely better very, very fast. I then go on and do another piece, and I jump in someone else's program. It could be 6 weeks, could be 10 weeks, could be an entire year, but I start making these little commitments to myself. And by doing that, I accelerate my growth and I infinitely get better. So the question for you today is, what do you want to grow in? What do you want to infinitely get better in? And what do you want to get better at fast? If there's something that you want to get better at fast, I would suggest for you to create a challenge for yourself, or find someone else's program and join that to get better. Okay, so of course I have a program, but it's not happening yet, right? I've set it up for the financial year because it's a really good time for people to actually go, all right, what else do I need? What else do I need to grow into this next financial year? So the program I'm doing is, all right, if you can't get the amount of leads you want, if you don't have consistency in that, if you don't know what to say in a sales conversation so it's more natural and not awkward, if you are confused or you're lacking of clarity, how do you go about getting that clarity so you know exactly what the next steps are? That's what that little program's all about. And I've called it, your next 60K, because it's about plugging those gaps so you know how to add an additional $60,000 to your income this year. And then the same for the next year and the next year and the next year. It's how to build in these $5,000 per month increments to build your business that way. And ideally, it's for those people who are less than like $500,000 who want to do that. You could be at 60,000, you want to get to 120. You could be at 180, you want to get to 240. But funnily enough, there's these natural $60,000 sort of jumps. And so I'm running that program. It's a bit of a challenge in itself. If you're interested in doing that with me, then I would love you to put "I'm interested" into the comments, and then we can have a chat to see if it's even right for you, because it might not be. All right, so it's only right for certain types of businesses, but put it in there. We can have a chat. It doesn't hurt. But whether it's that or whether it's something else, find the thing that you want to grow in. Find an opportunity to create a challenge for yourself that forces you, has a little bit of accountability for you to get those things done. If it's paying someone, there's the financial accountability that's like, well, if I'm going to spend this money, I'm going to make it work. If it's the social accountability, say something out loud. I did this last year, actually. It's like, I need to lose like 10 kilos. And I'm like, I'm putting it out there. I'm actually doing this thing for charity, that I'm actually going to lose the weight. And so it forced this social contract on me that forced me to lose the weight. So what is the challenge that you need to do right now to accelerate your growth? So I'd love you to put it in the chat. I'd love to know what it is. What is the thing that you're working on right now? What is the thing that you would like to get better at? And potentially what's a challenge that you can do either in the next year or in the next 30 days? I'd love to hear. Until next time, my name is Russell Pearson. If you don't know who I am, I guess, the host and facilitator and founder of the Future Proof discussion group. If you are watching this somewhere else that's not in the Future Proof discussion group, I'd love you to join us over on Facebook. Future Proof Business Group is the search that you would do in Facebook to find us. Apply, and if you are in business, I will let you in. If you're not in business, I'm not going to let you in. But there's a great conversation going on here with great business people who are all working very hard to adapt their business in the face of crazy change. Till next time, stay passionate. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.